Welcome, everybody, to Write Better Together. I'm John Myers. Hey, look, everybody. It's Emily Brooks.
Hello, John Myers.
Hi. What are we talking about this morning?
Well, we have quite the list.
Mm.
We have more listener responses as usual.
Yay.
And our big idea today is actually coming. This is kind of serendipitous. Our first episode was about how having a hobby can enhance your writing and your life. Then I happened to run across a video by Michael Jamin.
My hero.
Yeah, I actually learned about, I knew of his work. I'm a huge fan of King of the Hill. In fact, we haven't talked about King of the Hill, but it's a comfort show for me and my husband. We watch it all the time. Anyway, Michael Jamin is a screenwriter for that show. He has a lot of teaching, a lot of lessons, a lot of really helpful videos. And he had one about how it's important to not have too many hobbies, essentially. So we're going to show you some of that video and react to it. So that's our big idea today. Do we want to say what our title is?
The title of the big idea is Give Yourself Permission to be able to read this card. I have professional cue cards. To give yourself permission to prioritize your writing. There you go.
Yes. So that's what he's talking about. And so we're going to be discussing that and how it interacts with our last conversation about this. I'm going to have a Hey John Myers. So be ready to be stumped, John Myers. And then we're going to have a call to action.
I'm going to have to talk to Inky, my cue card guy, because Inky I could not read what he wrote there. All right. So what's first? Oh.
Well, how have we gotten out of our bubbles this week?
Well, so we went, Well,
not this week, technically, the time of recording.
Yeah, so we just got back while we're recording this from the Southern Oasis Film Festival in Sevierville, Tennessee, somewhere I hadn't been for 25 years. We have a previous episode. You can go back and see an interview we did there. Yes. And so when was the last time you were there, Emily?
I was actually there last fall.
25 days ago compared to my 25 years.
Yeah, but my family, we went on trips there often. And so there are a lot of things that are very nostalgic there for me. Like when I see signs for the Dixie Stampede, like Dollywood, those are all things and the Ripley's Aquarium. Yeah, I've been to all of them multiple times at this point.
What's the big Titanic?
I actually have not been to that one.
So what is it?
It's a museum.
A Titanic museum?
Yeah.
Life size, apparently.
It's supposed to be very cool, yeah.
Because I could see it from miles away.
Yeah.
So no charge for this free tip. If you want to make $1 million, open a pizza place in Sevierville, Tennessee.
What?
On Saturday night, I tried to find pizza at about after the film festival, maybe 8:30. Everyone was like, yeah, we're not taking any more orders. I called 5 places. We're not taking any more orders for the rest of the night. So Sunday, I don't know why I was determined to have pizza, but I was. You get 5 no's, you're determined. and then so Sunday, same thing. No. And it was earlier. So we had a break from like 6 to 8 before the awards started. And I got a couple no's. I got a couple 90 to 120 minutes, so an hour and a half to 2 hours. And there's probably 10 pizza places there, and they were all just busy. Finally, I won't say who they are. It was good, by the way. I found one and on the phone, and he was like, "Yeah, it's 20 minutes," and I was like, 20 minutes? Why is everyone else 2 hours and this guy's only 20 minutes? And but it was fine, and so. They were busy when I got there, so maybe they're just faster than everyone else. So there's my free tip, no charge. What's the weirdest thing you saw there? And then we'll move on.
Oh man. There's it's not weird, but it made me laugh, is that there's a little theme park called Soaky Mountain.
I saw that, but I didn't know what it was.
I just love little kitschy stuff like that. It's so funny.
Little kitschy stuff like this cow I bought when I was there.
Yes.
um, so the weirdest thing I saw, speaking of barnyard animals, was there, and I took a picture of it, so we can put a picture in the thing in the Facebook or the show notes wherever we put pictures, and this ride that was pigs. They were like
Yeah.
flying pigs just going around and around, and I was mesmerized by the flying pigs.
Yes, I remember this.
So you saw the flying pigs as well,
Yeah.
and so I took a picture of it, so we'll put that in the show notes. One last thing, I'm driving, and I was telling my brother that it was like, so it was like, it was packed, and it's not spring break. I mean, it might be spring break in some parts of the country, but it wasn't spring break. Saturday night I can get, but Sunday night it was still packed, and it was like Vegas in Tennessee, and it was like 4 lanes both ways, so 8 lanes, totally packed with cars, just people everywhere, walking everywhere. It was amazing. And so I was telling my brother, oh look, there's a roller coaster, and he's like, you're in an amusement park? And I was like, no, it's just a roller coaster. And it was 10 o'clock at night. People at 10 o'clock at night were on a roller coaster.
Yeah.
And yeah, and it was on and busy. So
yeah, it was right, the one right behind our hotel, right?
So there was one, but so that, yes, but there was another one.
Oh, I see.
Like, I don't know.
Yeah, they're everywhere.
This 8 miles in the other way.
Yeah.
Again, all off by itself. So
the one behind us was one where you can control the speed. And I was like, that's the kind of ride that I need.
Did you go on it? How do you know?
No, but you can tell, like, they're in little carts, and they're like, some of them are going fast and some of them are going slow. I hate roller coasters. I can't do like adrenaline or like a bunch of G's.
So
like,
Emily gets on a roller coaster and then goes like 2 miles an hour. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that sounds great.
So was the we're going on way too long about this place.
We are.
Was the ski lift up to the roller coaster,
Yeah.
or was that a separate thing?
I think it was, but I do have one more. So the first like roller coaster I went on as an adult was Dollywood, and I was like, I'm ready. It's fine. My husband loves roller coasters. I'm going to go on a roller coaster with him. We went on the biggest, scariest roller coaster in the park
in the world,
and I hated every single second of it. And when we got up to the top, like where you know you're going to drop, I was thinking, what have I done?
And
so never again.
But you lived to tell about it.
I did. I'm glad that now I know I hate roller coasters, because at the time I was like, well, maybe I'll love it. Now I know. All right.
So what's the life lesson from that?
Try things. Even if you don't like it, you won't die.
Confirm that you will hate it.
Yeah.
There you go.
But I could have loved it. So.
All right. All right. That'll be a future topic. Things you thought you were going to hate, and then you ended up loving it.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right. Write that down, because I'm sure I'll forget it. Next.
We have listener responses.
Oh.
So we have some ones from our very first episode. So this is from our prompt, if money and training were no object, what would you do? This response is from Gretchen. And hi, Gretchen. She's in my writing group. And she actually calls back to the other writing group response we had from that episode from Janice. She says, I would do the same thing Janice said about traveling and getting to know the different cultures. Great minds think alike. Also, I would be an art therapist and children's book writer, assuming I get that inspiration hurdle overcome. And I would adopt children much more easily.
One of our other listeners, viewers, I think he has 3 self-published novels, but he's in the middle of writing a children's book. And that was, he didn't answer this question, but that was what I was, I don't know him, but he was talking to me, he messaged me and he was talking to me. That's a big dream for him as well.
Yeah. And I know like Gretchen is a great artist. And so I imagine she would want to do like all the illustrations and everything, which would be really, really cool. So I love that, Gretchen. I hope you get to do that.
Me too. And Gretchen. So I know, so this is interesting. I didn't know this was going to come up. So I know Kelly Light, and there are exceptions to this, but it seems like the successful ones the successful children authors are also illustrators. So Kelly Light's a
Hmm.
professional illustrator, but she has 2 or 3 different successful children's books as well. But she does illustrations for all kinds of different projects that belong to other people as well. So there you go,
Yeah.
Gretchen. There's your future.
I also like that she mentions the inspiration hurdle. I feel like that's something that a lot of us face, and so that may be a future topic one day.
The inspiration for children.
Inspiration hurdle. She says I need to overcome the inspiration hurdle.
Oh, okay.
All right. And then we also have, so this isn't quite a response to our prompt, but we asked people to write about their hobbies in a creative way. But we actually did get a really interesting response. Larissa.
Hi, Larissa.
Hi, Larissa. Said, I have learned this the hard way, meaning about the importance of having hobbies. By neglecting my hobbies for 20 years, hobbies make better teachers too. And then later, this is all from a Facebook post. So we were like, oh, how does that, how does it help you in the classroom? And she says, sometimes it's a magic key that unlocks the kids who resist every other attempt to engage them. Today, it was dogs and the etymology nerd. Another day, it is binging Shameless because a student told me about it. So she's using hobbies as or extra, things she's interested in to actually engage her students and bring them out of their shell a little bit, which I think is awesome.
So Larissa, I went to grad school with Larissa. You overlapped her in grad school, and she teaches middle school students. And she always has, like, if you're like, I need an app to do this, or I need this piece of technology to do this, she'll give you 25 different options, right? She knows all of the latest teaching tools that you could ever possibly need. And she just got her MFA. By the time you hear this, she will have had it for a while. And she passed her thesis defense. Her thesis is a novel, and that's all I know about it. About a
awesome
murder. It's about a murder. I know that.
Well, congratulations, Larissa. Okay, now time for controversy. Not really. We're going to show you bits of Michael Jamin. This is from his video, How Do You Pursue a Creative Writing Career with a 9-to-5 Job?
And I will interject here. I am a huge Michael Jamin fan. And
that's how I learned about him, yeah.
So, really?
Yeah, well, good. I mean, I knew his name because it comes up on everything, but I didn't know that he was teaching.
Just Shoot Me and Tacoma FD and Marin, and like he knows story inside out, inside and out, and he agrees with me on story. So that it's rare that people go on and off about all the different directions about what story is, but what Jamin says is story is what I've said for forever, what story was. So if there's going to be controversy, I need to leave. I need to recuse myself.
No, it's not controversy. I was kidding. It is, we're going to have a conversation about do we need hobbies? Because we talked about that before. We said that we do, but what you're going to hear from Michael Jamin is a different perspective. So we're going to hear just a little bit at a time. What'd you say?
I said, I can't wait.
Oh, good. All right, we're going to start here.
But I've always been very hyper-focused and self-motivated and driven. I'm not a well-rounded person. People often ask me, what are your hobbies? What else do you do? To be honest, my profession is writing and my pastime is also writing. That's what this is. It's my passion project, the Paper Orchestra. It's what I'm touring with.
Can I say something?
Yeah, you can say something.
So in the episode where we talked about hobbies, you're like, we were over and you're like, you never did tell me your hobby.
Yeah.
What hobby? I'm like, I'm a writer.
That's why I thought of this. I stumbled upon this video by accident, by the way. And he said that it was just playing in the background. And he said that I was like, that's John Myers.
and I felt all this pressure, like, oh no, I have to have a hobby now.
Yeah.
And but I mean, I watch webinars about writing. I practice writing. I I write in my notebook if something out in the real world inspires me. They're like, oh, that's gonna make a good scene someday. And I read articles about writing when I'm not writing, so it's all writing.
Yeah. All right, let's watch a little more.
And so I think when you look at people who are really good at something, they tend not to be, I'm talking about the best and like operating at a really high level. They tend not to be very well-rounded people. Look at the players in the NFL. They're not well-rounded. They spend far too much time on the field learning how to catch a ball and run a route.
Yeah. Keep going. I'm going to skip ahead just a little bit. He names other examples of professionals who are very devoted.
And we'll put a link to the whole video.
It's important for writers to have a life, but I won't go to a barbecue. I won't watch Monday Night Football. I do things that I really are focused on helping me become a better writer. And when I do leave my house to experience the world, I'm often thinking about, well, how can I use this in my writing?
We talked about that too last week, or last time too, right?
He must have been watching our episode.
Yeah. Everything can relate back to, like, we can use that as story material, right?
Yeah, we're observers of the human condition. Also, we don't watch sports either here at Write Better Together, do we?
No, we don't.
How can I write about this? And this has been my life's work, to be honest. It's like, that's how you get to become a really good writer. So, I'd ask yourself this question, are you doing the same? Are you drinking with the guys on Thursday night? How are you spending your time? Are you playing golf? I don't know.
Nope, I'm not doing either of those.
No, not really.
So far.
I love how it's all I love how it's all sports examples, because we just
What's golf?
I'm like, this is easy. I don't do any of that.
Maybe you want to be a well-rounded person, but if you want to be really great at something, unfortunately, I think it's one or the other. Are you well-rounded or laser-focused? You can't have both. And so you say, how do you pursue your career? Honestly, I wasn't even pursuing my career in the beginning.
So is there going to be one more clip, or was that the end of it?
There's one more. You want me to just keep going?
Yeah, go ahead and do the other one. And then what he said there will fit at the end about career. Go ahead.
Okay, perfect.
You should be pursuing your art, your craft. If you're spending all this time networking, then and pursuing your career, then you're not doing what you should be doing, which is working on your craft, becoming a better writer. That's what I would focus on, and then ironically, great things come from that.
So here's what I was gonna say, and then I will shut up. So I've seen author Courtney Stevens speak in a variety of book festival at the big book festival in Nashville or whatever. I hosted a conference 100 years ago, and she spoke at my conference. And when she sits down to write something, the very first thing is the who, right? Who is this for, and who who am I, but who is this for, and what's the purpose of this writing? And so the who always matters. So I'll give Jesus as an example, right? So his miracles matter, his words mattered, but if it wasn't him, it wouldn't have mattered. I'll use Einstein for an example, right? If Einstein had coworkers, right? And but we know the theory of relativity comes from him and not from any of the coworkers. So the who matters. And so if you're a professional writer, I am 100% in agreement with what Michael Jamin just said. If you're a hobbyist, then but you still write. Like, there are hobbyists who write every day, and not. The reason I'm being hesitant is because I'm using the word hobby in two different ways, right? And so if you're a hobbyist writer, if you write for yourself, and then you're out on the golf course or you're off on the things, you will have things to come back and to write about, and that who's the end consumer, who the end consumer is isn't as important because you're important, but it's a different kind of writing, and it's you're the end consumer is my big long convoluted way of saying it. All right, go ahead.
So essentially, like, when I hear this advice, first of all, I think it's a very good advice because it's showing he's an example of someone who is just 100% committed to his craft, and that shows. And it shows when you think about, who are the best of the best. Those are people who they give the majority of their time towards developing whatever it is that they do. Where I feel like I wrestle with this is that the kind of life I want to live is not one where I'm working all the time. And and when I say work, I'm not just talking about like even working for money, but even working on my craft. These are things that I love to do. So I'm not using work as a negative term. I'm using it as something that I believe, like, here on earth, like, our work is extremely important and something that should be fulfilling and should give us life. But even then, I like to go bird watching, and I like to knit, and I like to go out with friends, and I like to go see movies. I like to spend time with my husband. I like to go for walks. Like, and I know that Michael Jamin isn't just sitting at his desk all day. I'm assuming, but for me, when I think of what I want my life to look like, I want it to be well-rounded, right? And I know that that is a sacrifice to my art. That means that I may not ever be as excellent as I can be, but that's a choice that I'm making because of what I think is going to help me live a fulfilling life. And so it's all subjective, essentially, right? What are your thoughts on that?
So yes, I agree with that as well. Where there's an overlap in the Venn diagram,
Yeah.
however, and that those things that you said, like your bird watching and your knitting, and those, they impact your writing
For sure.
And the people that you talked about bird watching in a previous episode, the people with the binoculars that you walk by, that community impacts your writing. And so I don't think it's I think it's more of a distinction than a controversy. Michael Jamin has a new book of memoirs out, and it's brilliant, and it'll be available in our bookshop, right?
Yeah.
And so, or you can go through his website and get an autograph copy. And
oh, nice.
Yeah, and but they're all stories from his real life, and they're not stories of him sitting at a computer and typing. They're stories about his first dance lesson, or his first how he was the least prepared to go through the pandemic, even though he was a person that had N95 mask, and he had water, and he was one of those people that was always prepared for an emergency, but he was least likely to be prepared for the emergency because of his personality. And so he writes about that. And so those are all real life things that make his stories they're funny, but they're also very poignant, and you'll cry some as well. And that's why, because those real life moments are in those writings.
And you could tell and I don't know exactly what he worked on in King of the Hill, but it is a show that is built around, you can tell that every single thing that happened, somebody experienced. You know what I mean? Like, you go, oh, that happened to somebody.
Yeah, in a writer's room, that'll happen where so you know how we start an episode with host chat, right? And
right.
a lot of podcasters start with host chat. I know enough people, as someone that's not been that's worked, I've been to them, but I've not worked in one. I know enough people who have worked in them. The beginning of your day is that you're telling stories and stuff. You're telling what happened since the last time I saw you on Friday.
Yeah.
And, it's the writer room version of host chat.
Yeah.
And there's a purpose to that, right? Because those stories become real. They become in a different version, a scene in this episode or a
Right.
scene in that episode.
I think another really important distinction to make, or maybe not distinction, but just detail to pay attention to, is Michael Jamin is talking to somebody who was asked the question, how do I pursue a writing career with a 9-to-5 job? This is somebody who is already devoting a lot of time to not developing their craft if their job isn't related to writing. And so he's saying, okay, you've only got so many number of hours in the day. You need to spend those extra hours working on your writing if you're going to get better. So I'm in a different situation where I'm not working 9-to-5. So I have a lot more time for these extra things. And I think that we're all just going to, there's just going to be different seasons where you're going to have more time to commit to those things and other times when you won't.
Emily is 2 months older than I am. We've established.
Yes, because I was born in September.
I'm born in November. So we've established before. And so I'm trying to remember when I had a season where I wasn't all in on my whatever my career was. And like to bring this back to the beginning of this conversation, what do you mean hobby? Like what hobby? I can't remember. I mean, I've had different professions, but I've always been all in on them. And because like you've actually seen me teach. I'm a good teacher.
Yeah.
And because it's 24/7. The whole world is the textbook, right? I'll hear something on the radio on the way to work, and I'll use it in the classroom, right?
Yes.
And so it's kind of the same thing, in a different way. We saw stuff at the film festival where we were teaching, and that. Well, it's like what I said in a previous episode. The people in the room who'd come out to see us impacted the words that came out of our mouth in the presentation. Yeah. And so the whole world is your I don't know, not textbook, but what do you want to call it? The whole world is your canvas. And it's what you put on the canvas, whatever.
Your paint palette.
Your palette.
Yeah.
There you go.
My husband's a painter. So.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Well, he paints. That's his hobby. He paints the minis.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's why I don't have a hobby. He's taken all the hobbies.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Because it's not, you're not talking about hobbies, but you do have different interests and things that you're drawing from. I also think there's just a difference in personality with, like, when I was trying to decide what I wanted to do, like when I was 18 and I was like, I gotta choose a major for college. I almost majored in environmental justice because I was just as interested in that. And I almost majored in computer animation because I was just as interested in that. Like, I wanted to be a writer, but I couldn't decide if that was what I wanted to do. And I think that that's continued to be, like, throughout my life. I've never let go of writing, but I've also never let go of these other interests. And I do think that Michael Jamin's right that can be detrimental in some ways. Like, there are times when I go, okay, I really think it would be awesome to design a board game. And so I'll spend like a week coming up with ideas for the board game. And then I'm like, wait. This is not aligning with my goals. This is fun, but this should be something like maybe in the future or on the side. I don't need to be committing all my time to this weird side interest. Like, I've decided that I want to be a writer. And so I need to let go of the things that, not just things that I enjoy, but things that are distracting to that or are taking up too much of my mental capacity so that I'm not writing anymore.
So let me ask you this. Now, the thing you're going to in April, the Writers Conference, say what that is again?
It's the Tennessee Writers Conference. Yeah, in April.
Okay, and this is your second or third time?
Second.
Okay. How are you different when you go there this April than you were the last time you were there?
I have a better book.
How are you different in your life, prioritizing things, out of your bubble? How are you different?
Well, I'm doing this podcast. And I mean, that's huge. I'm really getting better about, like, I have a writing group. That's huge. Um, I'm letting people read my writing and giving me feedback. So yeah, I would say I'm much more out of my bubble than I was then.
When when you told this goes back to a previous episode, but when you told Bob Sines that you were an introvert, and like I saw you speak to a whole theater of people, and he was shocked, and
Yeah.
but I knew you back in the day,
Yeah.
and there were times where you didn't say anything, and but there were also, but when you did, you were also a speaker at one of my conferences, and
I
and
was.
you hit it out of the park. And to
Aw.
use a sports analogy that we don't, we're not
I
sure
don't know. What are you
what
talking
sport
about?
that belongs to, but so it was like your innate ability was always there, but now you're coming out of your bubble, I guess. Do you how will your interactions, now that you've gone through was that your first film festival?
Mhm.
So now that you've gone through your first film festival, how will you act differently at the writers' conference?
I think at the film festival, I was a bit distracted by what we were doing, and I'm not very good at just approaching random people and talking to them. Like that's still a skill that I'm not ready for. But I want to get better about just like, if I sit next to somebody going, "Hey, how are you? What do you write?" And I actually was a little better about that at Gen Con as well last summer. But even then, like I would like to be better about approaching strangers.
Tell the people what Gen Con was.
So Gen Con it's a board game convention, but it actually hosts the writing symposium, which is a big workshop for science fiction, fantasy, and other genre writers.
And then I've held this up in a previous episode, Bill Idelson's writing class.
Yes,
Is this,
that's also in our bookshop.
I say, is this in our bookshop?
Yep.
And we're not just here to sell books, but these conversations.
We just want you to know where you can find it.
turn into these things. And his other one is called that I have. This is kind of inside. Is called One for the Dough, and it's over there, and I'm not going to get up and get it, but I can see it. And so we mentioned this before, but therapy, or as he would say, psychoanalysis, is important, and talk about that a little bit in terms of when you're out of the, like, how it's impacted your ability to get out of the bubble, or how you act differently when you're out of the bubble, when you're at a festival or a conference.
All right, I'm waiting for you to tie this back into our topic because I don't know where we're going with this.
Okay, go ahead. Answer my question.
Okay, so how does therapy help me get out of my bubble? My bubble?
Correct. No, how are you when you're at a festival or a conference? How has therapy helped your interactions? What you were just talking about when you're sitting next to a person that.
So one of the things that has been really helpful for me is knowing that I can do anything for a certain amount of time. Like I'm an introvert, and so like at the end of the film festival, I was like, all right, that was my capacity. I'm ready to go home and chill. But I know that when I'm there, I go, okay, right now is the time for me to be social. And then later I get to go back to the hotel room and I get to decompress, and that's fine. So it's kind of like a mental trick of just saying, I can do this now, and it's not going to last forever. And also, I talked about this a little bit in our interview with Bob Sines, but I talked about being comfortable with making mistakes and just like, okay, so I did something a little awkward. It's fine. Nobody's going to think about it after this.
Right. And we do that. We do this on this show all the time.
Yeah.
It's authentic. It's who we are. People make mistakes. There's no wrong answers. We tell that when we give a call to action. There's no wrong answers. The way that it ties into all of that is if you don't have the full rounded life, you wouldn't have had therapy, right? And so if everything, when Michael Jamin was saying everything that you do outside of your writing still impacts your writing, or you use it when you do get out into the world and you use it in your writing, I think therapy is helpful in that, and it impacts your writing, and it impacts your ability to be part of the writer community and to be part of your networking. I think it impacts all of that, and that's part of being a well-rounded person.
Okay, yeah. So this kind of goes back to our topic from a couple episodes ago of how everything leads up to right now. So, yeah, all of those, like being able to go to the writers' conference came from me being able to like go to college and being given assignments where I had to speak in front of the class, or somebody like a stranger talking to me in the class and asking me to hang out afterwards, and me being like actually deciding that I would do that. So yeah, everything kind of builds up to what you're able to do now.
I agree 100%. Final thoughts on this topic?
I'm really curious everybody else's thoughts on this topic. I feel like we could keep going on and on about it. I think it's going to be subjective of how much time you really want to commit to writing. Is it a hobby for you? Is it something like you want it to be your primary career? Is it, do you want to be, who was the woman who wrote To Kill a Mockingbird? Do you want to be her and write one really good book?
Lee.
Thank you, Harper Lee. Do you want to write one really good book and call it a day? Like, there's so many different ways of being an artist, and there's no pressure to choose one path. Like, we don't all have to be, Brandon Sanderson or whatever. Like, you can choose your own path.
They can't all be me. I want them all to be me. Like, it'd be so much easier in my world. I don't know.
Hey, John
next.
Myers.
Oh no, this. I said I don't know what's next, and because Inky did such a bad job on my.
I love that I get to surprise you every time because you forget that it's coming.
Yeah. Okay, I'm ready.
All right, I have another weird word for you.
Oh, so all I have to do. This is my easiest one. All I have to do is know the meaning of this word.
No, I'm just, you know how last time I had a weird word? Well,
yeah,
actually, if you know the meaning of this word, then yeah, you know what it is. Do you know, have you ever heard of kintsugi?
No.
You look so disappointed.
Are you like, is it English?
No, it is Japanese.
Dude, I speak no other languages. I know like 5 Hebrew words, 10 French words, and that's about it.
So I actually did. Well, you might know about it because I knew about it, but I didn't know what it was called, and I had to like look it up and remember what it was called. So essentially, it is a Japanese practice of repairing pottery. So when a dish or a vase or something like that breaks, instead of sweeping it into the bin, you actually make something beautiful out of it by mending it with gold. And I'll share an image here. And it actually makes it, in a way, more beautiful than it was before.
Can I have half a point because I know about this process? I just didn't.
All right, so I didn't stump you this time. I stumped you on the word, but I didn't stump you on the process.
Yeah, I didn't know that's what it was called.
Yeah.
And so it's an example. Here's how I know about it. It's an example of where the broken thing actually has more value than the whole thing. Like us.
Well, I learned about it because it's, I learned about it from my pastor because he was at the time obsessed with using this as a metaphor, because it's you can just use it for so many metaphors, which is something I love. But I want to read this because I think it's really cool. This comes from traditionalkyoto.com. As a philosophy, kintsugi can be seen to have similarities to the Japanese philosophy of wabi-sabi, an embracing of the flawed or imperfect. Japanese aesthetics values marks of wear by the use of an object. This can be seen as a rationale for keeping an object around even after it has broken, and as a justification for kintsugi itself, highlighting the cracks and repairs as simply an event in the life of an object, rather than allowing its service to end at the time of its damage or breakage. Which I think is beautiful.
Tune in next week for another episode of John Myers Doesn't Know This Foreign Word.
So, man, our call to action should have been to write a poem about that. But we actually have a different call to action. So, from this topic, first of all, I really would love to hear your thoughts on all of the things we just talked about.
Everything we've talked about.
Yeah. But our call to action today is to tell us, what is a time suck that you need to get rid of so that you can commit more time to writing? What's that thing that you know is not good? It's not good for you, or you are devoting too much time and not children.
It's children. Neither one of us have children, but that's everyone's time suck. When you're trying to have a meeting, right? Oh, I can't. Sally has hockey, or Charlie has ballet practice, or whatever the thing is. Like, you have to schedule around everyone's children's activities. They're the biggest time suck ever. There you go. There's your answer. We don't need your answers, people. That's the answer. It's children.
It is true. But children are a blessing. And our identities can't always just be in our writing sometimes. So what is that thing? What's a time suck that you need to and can get rid of legally, John Myers?
I didn't say get rid of them. I just said they were a time suck. And I don't want to go off on this tangent. I would love a child. So, and so there you go. And,
yes.
I would love to have a baby around the house and make a bunch of noise.
Oh,
so go ahead.
That's very sweet. All right. Send us that to, you can respond at writebettertogether.com under this episode. Then you can, or you can also respond to our Facebook post on this episode, and we would love to hear you.
I would also need a nanny, though, because I've heard children are a giant. I was watching this podcast and they said children were a giant time suck. So
yeah.
My wants and my actual reality are two different things.
Well,
what's next?
Well, you lost something.
Oh, that's what's next? We're at the end. That is the artificial mystery bag that's rattling right there. And because I've lost the mystery bag. I didn't think of this when we were talking about this episode. Did you take the mystery bag from Tennessee?
No, I did not.
Did you hide it?
I'm not that conniving. Maybe it was right. Bob.
Bob took the mystery bag. I think I had it after we left Sevierville, but the mystery bag, there's a second mystery now because it's missing. All right.
I hadn't even thought of, oh man. But he found a way.
I found a virtual way. It'll still work. It's the same thing. So the mystery bag has 100 tiles. 2 of them are blank, and Emily gets to pick which letter is in the that I pull out of the mystery bag. However, the virtual one doesn't have points.
Oh, come on.
You know how it has the letter and then a C is worth 4 points or whatever.
I'm not going to guess it anyway.
Not with that kind of attitude, you're not. All right, here we go.
That's what my husband would say.
The fake mystery bag. And then I will draw a tile. Ooh, it popped up automatically. Okay.
Perfect. Okay. My guess is S.
Wouldn't it be exciting if she got this? The first time as a virtual thing?
I can't see it. Where is it?
There it is. Oh. It's an I.
Didn't we have an I last time?
I don't know. Viewers at home that pay attention to this kind of thing, how many times have we ever drawn an I before? And
wow.
What is the I don't know the point value of an I. So put in the comments below what a point value to the I is.
Do I get negative points? Is that, I mean,
I get negative points because I lost the mystery bag.
All right.
And so I think this was another excellent example of our tagline,
Yes.
don't you? Because
I do.
Because we couldn't have done it.
We couldn't have done without you.
There you go.